This is the most dangerous killer whale in the world, attacking nearly 700 boats with military-level precision. Look at how absolutely brutal some of these attacks are. You won't believe how this killer whale developed the ultimate plan to destroy and sink boats, and how it spread this knowledge, creating a major problem for sailors near Europe. This orca drives her pod boldly towards sailing boats, approaching from behind and then circling around the vessel. To identify weak spots and coordinate her attack with usually two other allies. She starts by striking and biting the rudder to disable the steering and restrict the boat's mobility, then the groups begin violently ramming the boat's hull to create a water breach. This continuous striking can last 30 minutes to multiple hours. This killer whale displays a remarkable understanding of the boat's weak points, focusing her efforts on areas that will cause the most damage. This orca is on a mission, and she won't stop until the boat is completely immobilized or worse, starts sinking. Scientists named this rock killer whale White Gladys. Let's rewind to the traumatic event that turned White Gladys and her gang of boat slayers into the terrors of seas. White Gladys, or Gladys Blanca, was given this name for the distinctive white stripe on her back and dorsal fin, and of course, her gladiatorial nature. She is the leader of a group of 15 orcas that have been identified as the usual suspects in these attacks, part of a subpopulation of around 35 killer whales near the Iberian Peninsula. Being mainly composed of juveniles makes her pod highly social and dynamic, with White Gladys playing a very central role in this pod. These two younger adults, born around 2014, also partake in this ruthless family business. They are named Grey Gladys and Black Gladys. Researchers believe that White Gladys experienced a traumatic event involving a fishing boat around 2020, possibly colliding with it or getting trapped in a fishing net, which left her with a deep-seated aversion to boats. Researchers suggest that this critical moment of agony could have been the catalyst for the aggressive behavior. Imagine getting your fin stuck in something you can't see. I mean, who wouldn't go in a vendetta against all these pesky boats anyway? Such an incident wouldn't be out of the ordinary in this area, especially that this type of killer whales lives near the shorelines and primarily hunt bluefin tuna. This type of orcas are called resident orcas. In contrast, transient orcas roam longer distances and hunt marine mammals, making them less likely to stick to one specific region and clash with the same boats. Given the high number of fishing and tourist boats in their habitat, I mean Spain alone have over 11,000 fishing boats and significant number of tourist boats, the interactions were bound to happen. The first notable incidents were actually reported 4 years ago, in the Strait of Gibraltar, now infamous for these orca encounters. Although the first attack was less coordinated and it looked like the killer whale was still learning the best tactic to damage the boat. White Gladys started by repeatedly ramming the hull for a full hour, yeah, talk about determination, then started attacking the rudder, with the rest of the pod watching from a distance. But these guys, they learn fast. During the second reported attack, the pod led by White Gladys looked a lot more coordinated. With each one assigned a specific task, the smaller assailants would focus on stopping the boat by only ramming the rudder, while the bigger ones were focused on breaching the hull and even spinning and turning the boat around to stop it by force. Since then, the coast of Galicia in northern Spain and southern Portugal have been under siege. The following events are insane. This must be one of the largest scale attack on human vessel ever. Just look at how many attacks were documented. During the first year after the first July interaction, there actually was 52 others. The second year they almost quadrupled. And let's stop for a moment. I don't think you understand how crazy these numbers are. For only one pod of killer whales, it would literally mean more than one physical interaction and probably many occurring during the same days. They either hate boats or really enjoy destroying them. Over the 500 first interaction, at least 250 have been severely damaged and needed immediate repair, with some of the passengers left stranded in open sea. Luckily, no human have been fatalities, at least yet, but some sailing crews have faced deadly situations. So before I share some of the most concerning and scariest recent development, how I think the Gladys family learned this behavior, here are, just for you, a couple of the most brutal attacks documented. In the night from Thursday, May 4 to Friday, May 5th, the moon hung high over the Atlantic, as the Swiss yacht Champagne sailed smoothly near Gibraltar. On board were 4 experienced sailors from the Swiss Sailing and Motorboat School. As the yacht got through the wave, a sudden violent jolt threw the crew off balance. Initially, the crew thought that they had struck a submerged object, but the truth was far more terrifying. 3 killer whales launched their assault. The crew quickly killed the engine and sent a distress signal. Nearby, a large motor yacht passed about 650 feet of the Champagne, but didn't stop, despite the spotlight and radio signals. Fortunately for the crew, Tarifa's Coast Guard responded, advising them to stay calm, but the killer whale's attacks were calculated. The 2 smaller assailants targeted the rudder, while the larger one rammed the yacht with sheer force, spinning it nearly 100 degrees. The crew experienced brief moments of relief, only to be thrown back into terror as the Orca renewed their assault. The repeated impact soon breached the hull, and water began to flood in. Despite their best efforts, the crew was fighting a losing battle. The Coast Guard dispatched a rescue cruiser as the situation got worse. With their mission accomplished, the Gladys gang vanished into the abyss. As the rescue team arrived, the Champagne was already sinking. The exhausted crew was evacuated and the powerful pump was installed. They made the desperate attempt to tow the yacht toward Barbate, but the damage was too severe. The Champagne sank just outside of the port, disappearing beneath the waves. On Sunday, May 12th, the Alboran Cognac, a 49-feet modern sailing yacht, set out on its journey. 14 miles off Cape Spartel in Moroccan waters, the 2 passengers were enjoying the sun when they felt a sudden, violent bang. The hull of the yacht shuddered with the impact, and then came another strike, this time to the rudder. Panic sets in as the crew realized what was happening. The passenger rushed into the radio to send out a call to nearby vessels, but the blows from the Orca has already caused a leak, and water was seeping into the yacht. The passengers could feel the vessel tipping to one side as it struggled to stay afloat. Nearby, an oil tanker heard the distress call and changed its course. The crew of the tanker worked swiftly, positioning the massive ship alongside the yacht. The passengers were pulled from the deck just as the waterline began to rise dangerously close to their feet. As the tanker made its way to Gibraltar, the Cognac was left adrift. The killer whales continued their attack, slamming into the hull with increasing force. Passengers watched from the safety of the tanker as their yacht slowly gave in to the sea. The Orca eventually swam away, leaving the Cognac broken. It was only a matter of time before the yacht, taking on too much water, began to sink. For the passengers, the nightmare ended in Gibraltar, safe but shaken by their encounter. The Cognac is the 5th out of 6 boats to sink from killer whales attacks. There's something very important to know to understand how Gladys managed to learn so quickly how to destroy boats. And yes, we're going for another fast-paced, really important information dump. Let's talk about feet. Let's talk about size. Male orcas can reach up to 32 feet in length and weight up to 11 tons. That's like having 3 SUVs stacked on top of each other, cruising through the ocean. Females are just a bit smaller. And guess what? These giants can live quite a long time, contrary to what SeaWorld might have led you to believe.
In the wild, living to be about 35 and mid-30s. They tend to live a lot longer in this environment because they have all the veterinary care.
25 to 35 years.
25 to 35 years.
In the wild, they can live up to 90 years, with females generally outliving the males and having a more central role in the development of the pod. Remember someone? Now, killer whales don't just live alone. They are the definition of family-oriented. This is very important. Being the apex predator of the sea, like humans on Earth, orcas are found in all the world's oceans, from the icy waters of the Arctic to the warm tropical seas and back to the not-so-warm, deadly cold Antarctic. So interaction with humans again were bound to happen. Orcas have highly developed brain, particularly in areas related to emotions and social interactions. They display behaviors that suggest a high degree of emotional intelligence, such as playing, transmitting knowledge, and mourning the dead. Yes, orca do that. A bit dramatic. They form strong social bonds and display empathy and cooperation within their pods. Again, this is very important. So imagine the repercussions. How the fuck do you read repercussions in English? So just imagine the consequences if someone decided to harm an orca in front of her family gang. Let's just say that you really don't want to stay to find that. So as we said before, orca pods are led by an older, experienced female who guides the group movements and hunting strategies. Her knowledge is crucial for the pod's survival. These marine mammals often stay with their mothers for life. Talk about some mama boys. Different orca populations have distinct cultures and dietary habits, which means that killer whale behaviors, unlike the majority of the rest of the animal kingdom, is not only determined genetically. This is very important again. You see, cultural species, like humans, start behaving completely differently than species where everything is determined genetically. They teach, learn, and transmit knowledge. For instance, resident orca will live near shorelines and hunt fish like our gladises, while transient orca will hunt marine mammals. These dietary preferences, hunting methods, and social behaviors are passed down through generations. For example, when calves elbow, they make less complex sounds. Like human babies, they don't know how to communicate effectively at first, so their pods teach them their own unique language. This generational transfer of knowledge includes advanced hunting techniques, pod-specific calls, and specific social behaviors that are very unique to this pod. For example, before going for the real deal, young orcas will practice their hunting techniques with the matriarch by using a practice target to learn how to beach themselves safely when catching seals. Then the juveniles try to mimic the technique, practicing for hours and hours and hundreds of attempts. This can be very dangerous, by the way. Sometimes the matriarch has to drag back the stranded juvenile into the water. Definitely do not try this at home, at least if you're an orca. But this typically shows their ability to learn and hard work to improve their technique. Another very impressive example that you probably heard about is an orca hunting a great white shark by biting off their livers. This behavior is particularly noted among orcas of the coast of South Africa, especially an infamous pair of male orcas known as Port and Starboard. These two have been documented killing great white shark left and right and consuming only their livers, a behavior that led to the sharks completely abandoning the area. If you still had any doubt about who wins the apex contest, sorry for you. Their complex hunting technique involves flipping the shark into a state of tonic immobility before extracting their livers. This is yet another proof of their incredible ability to learn and teach complex new hunting methods within their pods. Again, this is very important. So we already know that orcas will adapt to a new environment, find the best offensive strategy to take down their targets, and pass it down to other orcas in their social groups. By understanding this specific aspect, we can begin to appreciate why they might be very good at learning how to attack and damage boats. For example, one of the most common tactics used by killer whales to focus their first attack on the tail to immobilize the fish or the seal or whatever they're hunting to reduce its mobility. Attacking the rudder first is a very similar strategy. Their intelligence, social culture, and ability to pass on knowledge make them not just very good hunters that can fight back when threatened. Still, one of the craziest theories to me is that some scientists believe that these are not attacks and that orcas are just playful because they can't eat the boat, so it's not hunting. But considering that the Gladys gang would go out of their ways for days and hours to just ram and sink the boat only for play, I still honestly highly doubt this theory, especially knowing that if the boats try to escape, wild Gladys will get more aggressive till the vessel is fully incapacitated. She's even been documented leaving her newborn calf for hours, which is very unlike a matriarch behavior, just to attack a passing yacht. And for this final segment, here is the most concerning event for sailors all around the world. This behavior might already be spreading very far from the Iberian Peninsula. In June 2023, the first killer whale attack very far from the regular location was recorded in the North Sea. One very angry killer whale proceeded to attack a Dutch physicist that was sailing alone from Lerwick to Bergen, Norway. The orca approached very fast from the rear, and in similar fashion to the Gladys gang, she started circling the boat, first ramming the keel. The Dutchman described this encounter as terrifying, especially noting the loud breathing of the orca as it circled and struck his boat multiple times. This incident mirrors the aggressive behavior seen in the Iberian orca population, suggesting a potential spread of these tactics to other regions. Who knows where this could lead us? Actually, sailors are increasingly concerned about the safety of their vessels due to the growing number of aggressive orca interactions. Some have resorted to extreme measures such as firecrackers and attaching spikes to their rudders to deter the orcas. However, these tactics pose significant risk to the Iberian Peninsula subspecies of killer whales, which are endangered and could suffer serious harm from such defenses. Instead, more sustainable solutions are being proposed, such as tagging white Gladys with a GPS device. This would allow boats and smaller ships to avoid areas where she and her pods are located, reducing the likelihood of encounters and promoting safer coexistence between human and killer whales. Anyway, if you're still watching this video, thanks a lot. This was my first video. It would really mean a lot to me if you smash that like button, and I'm really curious to know what you think motivates white Gladys.